Hello there, I'm Joe Merley, and today I want to talk about applying lean across an entire supply chain, not just within your internal operations. If you're listening to this, you've probably gained a lot of experience in lean already, made some process improvements in your operations, maybe put together a model cell. We can see all the elements of a lean management system working together in a smaller ecosystem and seeing how it works truly as a system. Potentially, that might have inspired a complete transformation of the business, where everybody across the organization is adopting lean principles and thinking and methods in how they do their work. As you progress to this, though, inevitably you're going to reach a point where some of the things that you have to improve are outside your own walls, the supply chain. And inevitably, if you're working with a supply chain that's simply insulating itself from your internal operations by insisting on minimum order quantities that are onerous and dealing with batch and queue thinking, at some point that's going to impact your internal operations and your end customer and put a limit to how much value you can place in the customer's hands and continue to reduce waste in so doing. So what we're going to be talking about in this upcoming class on lean supply chain is how do we look at the entire enterprise? How do we look at the entire enterprise from raw material to putting value in the hands of your customer and doing it faster, better, cheaper? How do we take a look at where the next process improvements need to be and how do we affect those whether they're in our walls or not? Managing the enterprise, continuously improving the enterprise are what the truly successful lean organizations have done in the past and are continuing to do today. We realize that there's challenges associated with this. There's internal organizational challenges due to responsibility silos. There's external barrier challenges as well because you're dealing with external businesses that are independent of one another and inspiring them to act as a team that's looking at the entire enterprise is something that takes a lot of work, but it's completely doable. So we're putting together this e-learning class to talk about the basic principles of how to approach the problem. And we're going to do some interesting things. We're actually going to look back to the 1960s where MIT put together something called the beer game, which took a look at how do people think independently of one another if somebody's at the retail level and somebody's at the distribution level and somebody is at the production level and then there's a supplier and they're all looking to optimize their own individual situations. But what the game clearly illustrates is that all four of those entities are leaving a great deal of value on the table by not cooperating and not looking at the larger picture. So how do we tie that into lean thinking? We're going to be looking at enterprise mapping. We're going to be looking at understanding the customer persona and what truly is value in the eyes of the customer. What are the challenges that they face and how can the enterprise align themselves behind that customer's needs and create truly sustainable competitive advantage over time. So there'll be lots of in-depth analytical tools that we're dealing with that will present and illustrate how they're used, that you can use in your own businesses. But at the end of the day, if you want to keep driving continual improvement, you can't just focus inside the walls of your own operation. You have to look to the left and you have to look to the right. We have to look at what the customer truly needs, what their problems are, and how we can solve their problems. And then we have to look all the way to the left where raw materials are gathered. Those raw materials are transformed into base components and requirements and then ultimately sent into your operations. And how do we make all of that flow more effectively? Putting large piles of consigned inventory in warehouses and managing those warehouses, regardless of whose books that material is sitting on, doesn't lead to operational excellence. What we're going to talk about is what does. How can we truly take a molecule of raw material, put a red sticky dot on it, flow it through all the various entities that have to transform it, and ultimately put it in the hands of the customer and continuously reduce waste on a day-to-day basis. So I hope to see you there. We're going to have some fun with this, and we're going to hit some concepts that you probably have not dealt with in any sort of depth before, just because they're just not commonly talked about in the lean community at large. They're extremely important. The one thing that we have learned through the years is that driving a continual adoption of lean and continuous improvement is not taking one element and repeating it over and over again. It's a system view. It always has been, and the key reason why organizations go in fits and starts in their lean transformation, they take 2 or 3 steps forward and then 1 or 2 steps backward over and over again. The reason the improvements are not sustainable over time is because of a reluctance to truly take a system approach to adopting lean, and that's why we call it the lean management system. So I hope to see you there. We're going to have some fun with this. Talk to you soon.